pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll call the roll. Phil Kennedy?
Here.
Les Schmidtke?
Present.
Ron Wilder?
Here.
Jim Nelson?
Present.
Jim Budney?
Here. Ted
Van Oz?
Here.
And John Riley, our vice chair, is out of state, so he will not be here tonight. The first item on our agenda is a presentation, an information presentation on our proposed 2014 chip seal program. And I see a few strange faces in the audience, so very pleased to have the opportunity to have you be here. Just for your information, Lorena, did you put the map up? Is it easy to do? You all should have received a letter, and I know you did because you're here, a letter of invitation. And as our DPS director, Lorinda Beneteau, will point out, we get a map up. I think that's clear to everybody. There are 4 streets that we're proposing to chip seal. Tonight we're going to explain what the chip seal process is all about. We're going to do 2 sections of East River Road, 1 section between Grow and Manchester. How many people live in that area? 1 section between basically Macomb and Ferry, past the junior high school. Anybody live in that area? Very good. We're going to do a section of South Point and Grow, coming from west of the township office on South Point, past the township offices up to Meridian. And we're going to do a section of Horse Mill on the north end of the island, or all of Horse Mill on the north end of the island, between Park Lane and the Meridian. So I want to welcome everybody here and introduce that we're the Public Services Commission. We deal with all the fun stuff on the island: water system, sewer system, drains, garbage, water, gutters, all the good stuff. And but we do have a lot of work that we do, and one of them is we've been concerned about is roads. So we're here to discuss tonight this process called chip sealing. We learned about chip sealing a couple years ago, and in fact we talked about it as a process, and we'll get into some detail, but essentially an asphalt slurry is spread on your street after some repairs are made, and small chips are spread on it, and they're rolled in, and they stick to the pavement. And we'll get into the details of that program. But when we first thought about it, we thought, well, why would we do this? I'd like to say that as a township, we do not own our roads. All the roads in townships in Michigan are owned by counties. In our case, instead of a county road commission, like we have the Monroe County Road Commission and the Washtenaw County Road Commission and the Oakland County Road Commission, because we have a county executive system, we have a Department of Public Services. And essentially, Wayne County owns all our roads, including the bridge, the Free Bridge. We've been working with them over the years and frustrated, trying to get improvements made. And we learned about the chip seal process, and we were interested because we heard originally that you could chip seal a road, an asphalt road, and preserve it, maintain it better than you can with resurfacing. Resurfacing costs about $500,000 a mile. Chip sealing runs in the vicinity of, we thought, $30,000 to $50,000 a mile. We actually have taken bids, and our engineer Austin Fletcher is sitting here this evening. Is going to answer any questions we may have, but our bids came in at an average of about $60,000 a mile because we're going to do repairs of those sections that have failed first. So we'll talk about that too. So anyway, this whole commission, last summer, we visited the Monroe County Road Commission. And we saw their equipment, talked to their staff, went out and witnessed the process being done. We looked at roads that they do, and they do 70 to 80 miles, they said, a year. Chip sealing can only be done in the warmer weather months, and generally Monroe County says July or August because they don't want cool evenings. They want it to set up. It takes about 24 hours for it to really cure. Our contractor and others outstate will do it up till mid-September, depending on the weather. If it's wet, they won't do it. And if it's going to be cold evenings, I mean real cold, dip into the 40s, below 50, they won't do it. So we're going to learn more about that. Part of our study over the last couple of years is looking at this as an alternative. We had to convince ourselves, why should we spend township money? Why not just rely on Wayne County? Well, at the state level, and I'm sure you've read in the newspapers over the last few months, that Governor Snyder and state legislature dealt with the whole issue of revenues for the road maintenance for both Michigan Department of Transportation, for highways, and the money that all the gas taxes we all pay and registration fees we all pay, that all goes to the state of Michigan, and it's distributed back to cities and villages and county road commissions. MDOT, the Michigan Department of Transportation, takes a chunk for all the freeways and highways in the state. County roads are roads like Jefferson, Fort Street, the major roadways, Allen Road, King Road, Pennsylvania, all the major corridors. And in the case of us being a township, all of our roads are owned by Wayne County. Well, trying to get Wayne County to spend money on our community, we have low traffic volumes, and we're being compared with accident rates and the condition of roads in Canton Township, in Brownstown Township, in Livonia, and in Westland, and in Southgate, where they spend their money on major roads. For example, Grosse Ile Parkway is a major corridor, and we understand that next year, this is good news, I guess, from the county, next year the Parkway, along with Jefferson, all the way over to Trenton, is going to be repaved. And you know how bad that is when we leave the island on the Free Bridge. Now, that's what we've been told, and it is in the program. So if we look at the Wayne County program, there are 200 projects listed on what they call a needs list, and they can do about 15 of them a year. 200 projects, they can do 15 a year. The only project we have listed in the 200 is proposed for a couple of years from now to repave Meridian from Grosse Ile Parkway to Church Road. That's 1.75 miles. There's nothing in their 10-year plan for East River Road, West River Road, Meridian, other than that project I mentioned, Horse Mill, and it goes on. So we've studied this over the last few years and come to the realization that if we're going to fix our roads, we're going to have to, like many communities, pay for it ourselves. This has been in the news frequently, but I just found out that last night, Monday night, the city of Southfield, which is a much bigger city, most of their major roads are under jurisdiction of Oakland County Road Commission. But the city of Southfield is going to put on the ballot in November the sale of $99 million worth of bonds for road improvements. The city of Farmington Hills is going to put on the ballot a $2 million levy to fix their roads, which will raise $6.5 million a year, or for the 10 years, $65 million. Many communities that you read about in the paper all the time, Riverview just passed a $3 million levy to fix roads, $3 million for 10 years. So other communities are taking on the same initiative. Many townships have a road millage, and we have 0.4 of a mil that was approved by the voters in 2010 that runs till 2020. And we raise, with the 0.4 of a mil, we raise about $225,000 a year. And with the $225,000 a year, $100,000 of it is expended to supplement Wayne County's snow plowing services at about $40,000 a year, $40,000 a year for dust control on our gravel roads on the island, and another $20,000 to supplement roadside mowing, and because otherwise we'd get the roadsides mowed twice a year, whether we wanted it or not. So we have about $125,000 a year that we spend on repairs, and we've been spending, because of an accumulated fund balance, a little more than that. This year with our chip seal program, we hope to spend about $250,000 if we do the 4 roads and if we do them successfully. So we've been building up our knowledge and learning all about this process. Last year, we also brought in an expert, retired individual from the Michigan Department of Transportation who worked for MDOT for 30 years, very familiar with all these processes about chip sealing. He looked at all of our roads, including all of your roads, and agreed that we could do the chip seal process and that it would work. We also looked at Ferry Road and this winter was so devastating on Ferry. If you were to drive Ferry Road today between Meridian and East River, it's very cracked up, and they call those cracks in the roads alligator. It looks like alligator skin. But several patches have now sprung loose. They've been patched by Wayne County, but it's no longer eligible for this chip seal process. On the section of East River between Grow and Manchester, there are several sections that were affected this year. But we're going to go in as part of this process and dig out those worst sections and repair them and then chip seal over it so there will be a uniform pavement. So we're going to talk about the whole chip seal process. That's a little background, and I just wanted to give you some history as to how we got to where we are, and that this isn't something that we take lightly. If you look at the presentation agenda, what we want to do is consider the 4 miles we're going to do this year, the 4 project areas, as a pilot program. Our hope is that if we do it this year, people can look at it through the winter, and next year we can all evaluate how well we came through it. This will give you a nice, smooth surface. The center lines will be restriped right after the project is done. And if we get through you'll have a much improved road to drive on. And if we get through the program successfully, as we hope we will, then this pilot program, we hope we can go to the voters with a larger program and maybe do 15 or 20 miles in the future to preserve the gravel roads we can, the asphalt roads we can. And as you all know, several of our roads are concrete, and all over near the high school on Grays Drive or Park Lane or Manchester, several other concrete roads, we're fixing slabs that are deteriorating all the time. So that's where our maintenance money goes. Into concrete replacement, we do on the asphalt roads. We've done crack sealing and joint sealing. We've done some patching, and that's about as best that we can do. But if we're very hopeful that this chip seal process will succeed. There's going to be plenty of time for questions and answers. I wanted to ask it. We're going to show a video now of the chip seal process that we acquired through the University of Illinois. Was our first lead. They have a technology center, and they have a whole library of videos that people can obtain on things like this. And then it was actually produced by the Federal Highway Administration. And this is our first public experiment in producing this video. So this will give you an idea of what it's looked like. Are we ready to go?
We're ready.
Okay. Let's see if it works.
chip application rates should be verified. As a general guideline, you'll need between 1.5 and 2 liters of oil per square meter of surface, and between 9 and 14 kilograms of chips per square meter. To check the chip application rate, place a tarp on the surface ahead of the chip spreader. Let the spreader go over it, and then weigh the chips. On the tarp, the crew then places a frame to collect the chips. The frame has an inside dimension of 1 square meter. The spreader begins applying chips and passes over the tarp and frame. Next, the crew removes all the excess aggregate outside the frame and the frame itself, leaving the collected chips on the tarp. They then fold up the tarp and weigh the chips to find the application rate. In this case, the chips weigh 10 kilograms, so the application rate is 10 kilograms per square meter. The oil application rate can be checked in the same basic way, using a pan or a piece of non-woven geotextile material, 1 square meter in size, to catch and retain the oil sprayed by the distributor, and then weighing the collected oil to calculate the rate in liters per square meter. In both cases, compare the results with the target application rates and make adjustments rates check out, you can begin chip sealing. The first step, of course, is the binder application. The binder shots must start and stop with neat, straight edges. So get the distributor in position. Then place building paper across the lane just before the start point and also just after the end point. The distributor then moves forward at the correct application speed. The operator starts spraying on the building paper so that the application from the start point on is uniform. Be sure to end each shot on paper too. Look closely over the binder application. It must be uniform to end up with a good chip seal. If you see anything wrong, stop the distributor immediately and correct the problem. Whether it's clogged nozzles, improper pump pressure, faulty nozzle adjustment, or incorrect spray bar height. Next comes the chip application. The chip spreader should also begin and end its applications on building paper to provide a neat, clean edge to the chip seal. For starters, there should be enough trucks to supply the chip spreader steadily to avoid halting the operation. The aggregate haul distance and the productivity rate of the chip spreader are factors in determining how many trucks are needed. To control the chip application rate, the spreader operator should refer to the unit's tachometer. Also, it's a good idea to mark off the length that each truckload should cover. Whenever further verification of the application rate is desired, use the procedure shown earlier using a tarpon frame. If an emulsion is being used, be sure the spreader follows as close as possible behind the distributor, never more than 30 meters. Here's why. When placed quickly, the chips can be embedded in the oil. Then, when the oil hardens, the chips will be held firmly in place. But if the spreader lags behind and the oil breaks, a film will form. Then, when the chips are spread, they won't embed or adhere properly. The same procedure should be followed when asphalt cement or cutbacks are used, because it's almost always best to run a tight operation. That way there's less chance of traffic driving on the oil. With rare exceptions, the chip spreader should stay within 30 meters of the distributor. Regardless of the type of oil being used, the speed of the operation is important. If it moves too fast, the chips will roll when they hit the surface. The problem then is that the chip's exposed side is sticky, so they'll be picked up by the rollers and by traffic. So look over the application. There shouldn't be any oil on the top of the chips. Then it's time to look at the rolling. Rollers follow closely behind the spreader to make sure that all chips are firmly seated in the oil, and that the chips are lying flat, not one on top of another. To do that, the roller operator should establish rolling patterns by offsetting the tires and by rolling the entire surface at least twice. The rollers have to be operated slowly enough to avoid throwing the chips. 8 to 9 kilometers per hour is the recommended maximum speed. And all stops and turns should be made gradually to avoid damaging the fresh surface. Proper truck operation can help considerably in rolling the new chip seal. Like the rollers, they can stagger their paths across the road, offsetting their wheels so that each truck rolls the surface. Beyond that, trucks have to be careful not to damage the chip seal. So the slower the speed, the better. And each turn and stop should be as gradual as possible. Remember, any sudden movement on a new chip seal will dislodge the chips. In addition, all operators should avoid driving over any exposed oil. And that brings us to joint construction. There are two types: longitudinal, which run along the length of the road, and transverse, which run across the road. First, longitudinal joints. When the adjoining lane will be chip sealed, there should be a narrow strip of oil that the spreader doesn't cover. Some refer to this narrow strip as the meat line. Whatever it's called, it should be left uncovered because there's not enough oil there to hold the chips in place. This is because there's no overlap at the end of the distributor spray bar. The chip spreader operator has to be careful, though, to make the meat line only as wide as the spray from the last nozzle, about 20 centimeters. On the next pass, the distributor has to line up so the last nozzle sprays the meat line. This double spraying of the meat line gives the surface the necessary coverage and ties the two applications together. Be sure, however, that the meat line is never made in wheel paths. Meat lines can be constructed only at the center line of the road, the center line of the driving lane, or at the edge of the driving lane. And no meat line should be left open overnight because exposed oil is very slippery. This means that the ends of adjacent applications should be together when work stops for the day. As for transverse joints, every application that takes off from a previous one has to begin on building paper. The reason is simple but important. You have to avoid spraying oil on the chips already in place. If you don't start the application on building paper, you'll be placing one application over another and building a bump in the surface. As stated earlier, use building paper at the end of each application too. That's the best way to keep the edges neat and even. Be sure to dispose of this paper properly, according to the regulations in force. Now let's look at brooming. While some amount of loose chips is unavoidable, they need to be removed by light brooming to prevent broken windshields, and also to keep them from dislodging the bonded chips. But be sure the brooming itself doesn't dislodge the aggregate. If it does, suspend it until a good bond has formed between the binder and chips. Also, make sure the broom is not applying excessive pressure to the surface. In rural areas, the loose aggregate may be broomed to the shoulders of the road. In urban areas, however, they should be broomed to the curb or center line and then removed manually or by vacuum device. And that brings us to the final step of the operation, opening the chip seal to traffic. Opening fresh chip seals to traffic is desirable. The traffic will help to roll the surface further. Still, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. First, you want the traffic to travel slowly, no more than 40 kilometers per hour. And second, you don't want sudden accelerations or slowdowns. They would likely dislodge the aggregate. Pilot cars and flaggers are recommended to direct and control the traffic flow. In the absence of a pilot car, reduced speed limit signs should be posted. And that brings us to the end of this second part of the video program.
Okay, that, I haven't seen that before. But, of course, if you're a contractor, that shows you how to do it. That's what this is about, so it was a little too technical. And one thing we'll talk about again and again, this 40 kilometers an hour, our contractor, I think we're saying that when it's done, 25 miles an hour. But our engineer, Austin Fletcher, will discuss that in a minute. But leading up to the history of this, before we get into the technical details, and we're going to have plenty of time for questions, is there anybody else on the commission that would like to speak to the issues that we've talked about, either our past study with the county, Monroe County, other counties we've looked at, our study of the road revenues, our relationship with Wayne County, and why we're doing this? I'd invite anybody to speak. We'll start at this end of the table. Jim?
I'd just like to emphasize that we've put a lot of time into this, knowing that our roads, year after year continue to deteriorate, and the cost is so steep to tear them up and reconstruct them that we spent a lot of time looking for something new, a new way of doing something, and this chip seal seems to be the answer to help us out.
Ron?
One thing I was surprised to learn when we started first going through this is the fact that chip sealing is not new. Chip sealing is used all around the state of Michigan, all around, I couldn't tell you what other states, but every Midwestern state uses this as their standard for repairing the roads. The only county, to my knowledge, in Michigan that does not do this is Wayne County. And that makes me a little bit suspect. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does, unfortunately. But I think that this is something that can go a long ways towards getting us the type of island that we're proud to live on, and gives us some decent roads and a good place to start. And remember, this is just a starting point. Thank you.
He stole my thunder. Go ahead. No comment.
Mr. Nelson says...
I'm not going to repeat what Bill said.
Mr. Wilder stole...
I will say one thing.
Thunder.
Understand this is a pilot program, and we chose these roads in different parts of the island so that we could get some feedback and see how this worked out. And if other roads are, in fact, in need of this or are eligible for this, we will do more roads on the island as money and time dictate. So places we've gone to check it out, it's been wonderful. So hopefully we've done our homework and we should be able to rock and roll. Bill?
Phil Kennedy.
I have nothing to add.
Les?
I've been on this island a long time, and back in the 50s, that's how all the roads were done on Grosse Ile, where the gas station is on the corner of Macomb and Meridian. Before that gas station was there, the county would come in and put one huge pile of chips there, and then they would go all around Grosse Ile and seal the roads. East River, West River, Bellevue, Macomb, Ferry, Horsemill, all those roads. So it really isn't something new. But then the county never came back and maintained the roads again, and that's when we got some millage up in the early 70s, and we asphalted all of Grosse Ile. So now we got to save the asphalt that's been put down, because the county's just not going to come back here and do it. So I think this is a great program, and all the time we put into it and watched them doing this, looks like it's going to be a good pilot program.
Thanks. And last but not least, Ted Van Oz is our township treasurer, the longtime chairman of this commission. Ted?
Yeah, I just, Les, isn't the free pay bridge chip seal from Grosse Ile to the bridge?
I think it is. I'm not sure.
I mean, if you want to see the type of surface that you're going to be riding on, a good section of that was chip sealed some years ago. I have every confidence in this commission, and we need to do something. I'm not sure there's a good answer. This is the best answer for the dollars, because if we wait till, if we try to replace these roads in asphalt, I personally won't be alive long enough to see it, and most in this room won't, because it's just too expensive. So this is a good alternative. We need to try it. We need to take a good look at it, and if it is successful, we need to maintain it and proceed forward. So I'm really all in favor of this going forward, and we need to improve these roads. They're getting worse and worse and worse. And if we have another bad winter, they're just going to be undrivable. And Wayne County is not going to fix them.
Okay, with that, I'm going to ask Austin, our township manager is here, by the way, Dale Rayom, and we're only going to talk, we're not talking about flooding tonight. If any of you experienced basement backups, I don't think we had too bad a problem here on the island, but at any rate, Dale, if you have any questions, Dale, our township manager is here. Thanks for being here. Our engineer, Austin Fletcher, is here, and he's going to speak in a moment. Here's where we're at with our program, and then Austin can correct me. We talked to the contractor. Actually, this Thursday, there's a pre-construction meeting. When you have a big project like this, you have a pre-construction meeting. You talk about the schedule, and you talk about all the details, traffic control, and how this is going to work. They're going to actually haul the chips in, and they're going to stockpile them at our DPW yard up here on Grow. And so the chips will be here on site. When they need them, they'll be here. The roads are conveniently laid out so that, except for Horsemill, they're all in a similar area. So the contractor told me in the past, and we had him in here before we awarded the contract, within a couple weeks, by the end of the month, I assume, or early September, they're going to come out and do the patching. So for you folks, particularly on the section of East River between Rowe and Manchester, there's quite a number of patches. So they'll actually dig out an area of asphalt where it's deteriorated, failed, and then put asphalt back in, and Austin can detail how thick that'll be, and then get it ready for the chip seal process. What he told me is that we're going to actually do what's called a double chip seal. So in one day, each of these 2-lane roads segments is going to get double chip seal. They'll come in the morning, and they'll do a lane and chip seal it, roll it, and then do the other lane, and then let it set for a few hours, I guess, and then come back and do the second coat. And then they come back a week later and put what's called a sealer. They call it a fog coat, but it's a sealer coat over it all. And so what the contractor told me is you'd be able to drive over your road immediately after it's laid. Obviously, it'd be better if no one drives on it for a couple of hours. But we're going to send why this is important, talking with our director, Lorinda, I hope everybody wrote their email addresses down, because what we hope to do is I hope we sent out 180 letters to homeowners that front the roads. This is worse than the primary that we just had. But I expected 40, 50 people, and I'm glad you're here, though. I'm disappointed the crowd's not too big. But what we want to do is we're going to send an email flash out to let everybody know the contractor's going to start work 3 days from now. We hope they're going to target a date. It's all going to be dependent on the weather. But we're going to send a letter out to everybody, too. We have the mailing list all ready. When the contractor gets ready to get in, we're going to say, within the next week, you can count on your road being chip sealed. And if we have your email address, we'll be able to target it even to more specifically to the day. Now, that's important to everybody up here because we've studied it. I know that all of us are going to want to, most of us are retired anyway, but we're going to want to witness this, so probably you'll see commissioners lining up and along the road watching, maybe township trustees as well, to see how this is done. So at any rate, that's a little bit of the details. Best I know right now, contractor's been delayed by every day it rains, working in other parts of wherever he does work, the state. And it was interesting that when we started this, it took us well over 4 months, maybe 5 months, to get approval from Wayne County. That was like, it's a new thing. We're using Michigan Department of Transportation specs that have been tailored for our purposes. And as Ron said, Wayne County is the only county not doing this. So they do 15 miles a year, and they've got 500 miles of roads to fix on their list. And as I said, just 1.5 miles of township roads are on their list that'll take them 10 years to do. So we can't wait around for the county. So with that being said, you want to straighten all the facts out that I just reiterated, Austin? Can you just explain how the process is going to work and all that?
My name is Austin Fletcher. I'm with C. Rains. As Bill in the video showed, we're going to be doing a chip seal program here in the next month or so. They will keep traffic open at all times, at least one lane. That's what we've been told, and that's what we've instructed them to do. The first step is come in and repair. There's small areas that need to be done, and then they'll seal all the major cracks. And then once they're done that, they'll go ahead and do the chip seal as you guys saw. The whole project should take about 3 or 4 weeks. We'll hope to get started here in about a week or two. Pre-con is Thursday, 10 a.m. I believe. They'll do a double chip seal. The second chip seal is less slurry and smaller aggregate. It's to help fill the voids. I want to stress this is a maintenance program. This is not new roads. It's a maintenance, a way to extend the life of your pavement by basically sealing it and preventing water from getting through it and causing problems with that. The fog seal will go on about a week later, and that's to add more sealers to help the loose chips come up. It's help seal it better to the dirt and the debris. That's what that fog seal is for. I think the video did a pretty good job of showing you guys how to do it.
And you said 3 or 4 weeks, you meant 3 or 4 days.
Well, total. By the time they start doing the repair work.
Patching, but the actual...
The actual chip seal will take a couple of days. They can do a mile a day,
So,
typically. So now the repair work that we're doing is they're not digging out the road. We're going to mill and overlay. So the areas that need to be repaired in preparation for this chip seal will be milled 2 inches and then overlaid with 2 inches of asphalt.
Okay.
One of the questions.
Yes.
One of the questions I've gotten several times, well, that's nice, but how long is this stuff going to last before we have to redo it?
Typically, this chip seal lasts 6 to 8 years. We've seen it last 10 to 12.
It obviously depends on the amount of volume
and the quality it was done, and obviously the winters and the weather that we receive.
Okay, but 8 to 10 years is typical.
Yeah, 6 to 8. They say 6 to 8. I've seen 10 to 12.
And how long would a typical asphalt road last before it had to be redone?
Depends on the area and how bad deterioration it is.
But somewhere in the same length?
I think asphalt roads, last 10 to 15 with decent maintenance, maybe 20.
This is for about 15% of the cost of that.
Yeah, you can extend the life of the road 6 to 8 easily, upwards of more 10.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, well, you'll be available to answer questions. Is there anything else you want to add, Dale, as Township Manager? I never want to not have you the opportunity to speak. Get yourself in trouble.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dale Riem, Township Manager. I'd just like to share with the Commission and the residents. I'm familiar with this process. I live on a road that was just chip sealed 2 weeks ago. And what I want everyone to understand and know and expect is when they tell you to go 25 when it's fresh, go 25 for 2 reasons. It keeps the little chips from flinging up in your car, and it keeps the dust down. Within a few days, there's no issue whatsoever. The fact that there's going to be a second coat over that, I think that that will probably, that's something that I'm not familiar with, but would keep all that dust and the chips down. But I think they did 3 miles in 6 hours out my way.
And you live in Monroe County?
Yes. So, and man, it's like I'm on a brand new road. And I know it's not brand new. I know it is maintenance. But the numbers, I was extremely impressed with all the research. For 50%, you can extend the life of this road 50% of what a new road would cost. It's just fantastic. And the key is do it before it gets so bad that this is not an effective method anymore. So I think that the residents will be very pleased with this, and it's a big bang for your buck.
Hey, Dale, on your road, did they double chip it?
No, they did not.
It's just a single chip?
No, they did not. What they are planning on doing is coming back next year to give another coat. But I think that's some of the figures I believe we were given, the approximately $40,000 a mile. That's, I guess, middle of the road, and then the $60,000 a mile with the repairs adds that other coat to it too. So we are getting, I think, a better product than what I'm familiar with. Thank you.
You know, Governor Snyder has promoted community cooperation, consolidating school districts and community cooperation. So last year when we studied this, Monroe County said that they might come out and do a couple miles of roads for us. And they came out, looked, and measured them up, and they were all set to go. But they got so many rainy days last July and August that they couldn't get all the things they wanted done, so they had to say, well, we can't do it. So anyway, they were going to try to help us out on a pilot program. But let's open it up to questions and answers now. So anybody from the public's welcome to come up to the podium. Just give your name and what street you're on, and we'll try to answer your questions.
Good evening. I'm Rob Carrier, my wife Linda Carrier. We live between Grays Drive and Ferry Road. First, I'd like to say I appreciate the time the Commission has spent on this issue and the rationale for doing it. We have some concerns. Number one, my first concern is how you chose a certain section, because where we live is one of the nicer roads on East River. I think down near Stout and Grays Drive, Stout and Island Drive, that could really use a new road. There's some potholes where we don't have that, and how you chose that
I
section.
can answer that. That section by Stout, most of East River, the other side of Macomb, is too badly deteriorated for the chip seal process. The only fix there by Stout and all the way out to Horse Mill on the East River is to mill it up and resurface it, which is $500,000 a mile. So that section's not eligible for. Your section is we thought was questionable, but we thought all the engineers came out and said, no, we could fix those spots and let's preserve the pavement rather than let it get as bad as the rest of East River. That's how we chose
the idea of preservation rather than new roads.
There's some
So you're not going to actually dig up the road between...
No, we're not. But there are going to be some patches we're going to fix where it's failed in spots. But we chose your section because it's worth saving.
Oh, okay, I see. We're concerned that, during the process, when drivers are not adhering to the recommended speed limit, it seems like you're going to need a police officer 24/7 while it's being taken care of, because they fly down there, as you well know. Especially the big trucks.
I think we can ask the township manager to make sure that we do have a police presence there when we're doing this, because it's all going to be new to our community. We're going to advertise it, and we're going to send letters to all the owners before it occurs, again emphasizing this 25 mile an hour. But I certainly, we're going to ask the police department to be present, to have a presence there. And because traffic control is going to be an issue, even though the contractor has to provide traffic control, I think your suggestion is good, and we're going to try to take care to make sure it happens.
Yeah, so you don't think there's any chance of chips coming up on our lawn, or even worse, going all the way to our terrace and hitting us during the...
I don't want to say there's any chance, never a chance of anything like that, but that's not our plan. I mean, it can be neatly controlled, right, with the contractor, the equipment that's used, and the chips hopefully will stay on or within inches of the pavement.
Okay. What color is the final product going to be?
It's gray. It's a gray chip.
You're down in Monroe, so is there? Are you sure from Park Lane to the bridge is chip sealed? The toll bridge?
From Meridian to the bridge.
Oh, Meridian to the bridge road?
Yeah, up
The actual bridge.
actual bridge parts.
Just the bridge itself.
Just the
Yeah.
approach to the bridge, or the actual bridge itself, huh? Is there any other place around the nearest area where we can drive and look at besides?
I think it's probably Monroe County.
Dale, can you suggest the street?
Sigler Road, right after it goes over I-75.
Sibley?
Sigler Road.
Sigler.
These would all be in Wayne. You're going to have to go to Monroe County.
Yeah.
They're not in Wayne County.
Yeah, I understand that. You said that.
Do you know where the Monroe County Country Club is? What road is that? Dale? Stewart? We saw it on them do it on past the Monroe County Country Club, which has about 6,000-7,000 vehicles a day on that road.
Yeah, we've been there, the Monroe County
That road is chip sealed.
road, right in front of the country club.
Country Club, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we've been on that road. Well, Lynn, is there any other questions I missed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
Sam Richards, Halcyon Court. Several years ago, I'll have to guess 4 to 5, the Crawford County Road Commission chip sealed a section of M72 between Grayling and Mile, where my cottage is.
Okay.
And it was tough the first 4, 5, 6 days. I lost a windshield. My neighbor lost a windshield. There were a lot of rumors of other people losing windshields. I can't speak to those. The road, normally is 55 miles an hour. We drove very slowly. In fact, most of us, including myself, always made it a point for that first week to drive 70, 80, or 100 feet behind the car in front. I lost my windshield with a car going in the opposite direction. I don't know all of the procedures they used, but that first week was horrible. I will tell you now, though, the road is in good condition. It's probably 5 years old. It has a tremendous amount of traffic of heavy double trailer carrying logs. I don't know what those things weigh, but it's got to be many tons. And so I think the road's going to last. It's a good road now. Only minor complaint I have now is there's a fair amount of road noise that you get off a chip seal road. They talk about tire wear too, but my tires aren't wearing. The other thing so I'm in favor of what you get at the end, but that first week, if it's not done right, and if you drive on it too soon, and if they drive too fast, and you may expect to lose windshields anyway, even at 25 miles an hour, because I lost them going in the opposite direction, and how fast could that chip have been going? So anyway, but after that, great road. I went and looked at Wikipedia on the computer, and there are a few other suggestions they have, like adding polymer modifications to the bitumen. There is a method of making the road black, too. There's an extra coating so that you don't have that gray look that people don't like. So all I would encourage you to do is have the contractor look at something like Wikipedia and see if that's applicable.
Yeah.
But other than that,
well, I want to try to
that week, that first week, it was great.
Okay, I want to try to address a couple of your concerns, Sam.
Sure.
First of all, on the color, when the experts came out, we learned that there's 3 or 4 different levels of chip seal you can do,
right?
And each one's a little more expensive. And the blacker it gets, the more oil and so forth that's put into it. So, and the companies will come out and try to sell you, this costs $120,000 a mile, not $60,000, but it's a different version. It's cheaper than asphalting. So, when we met with Malcolm that day he came from Grand Rapids, the retired expert from MDOT, he also pointed out, gave us brochures about all these different kinds of treatments. So we wanted to try this one because we've seen it successfully used. I've personally seen it in Lenawee County, in Monroe County, in Midland County, and when I've looked at the problem on urban streets that you're comparing with M72, no one has ever said about broken windshields before in the city streets that we're talking about because of the speed limits that we're supposed to drive. Now, M72 is a state highway. I don't know whether Crawford County had the maintenance contract on it or not.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and here's an issue that's coincidental. I would just want to share with you, show you how much we've studied this. Les Schmidtke has a cottage up north as well in Crawford County.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of 75.
On the west side of 72.
I'm in Kalkaska County.
Oh, sure, okay.
So months ago, he brought in an advertisement. This was in the spring, April, I think, or May, from Crawford County. He cut it out of the paper and brought it in and said, we need to research this because we might want to attract some of their contractors. There's only 3 or 4 contractors in the state that do this all over the state. So we called Crawford County Road Commission and said to him, do you have a list of contractors that you want to do chip seal? And I said, do you do it yourselves? And I personally talked with the director of the Road Commission there. And he said, well, we have such little budget. We only do 3 to 6 miles a year. So he said, we don't do it ourselves. We hire it out to local contractors. Yeah. I said, well, can I have the list? Because we're down in Grosse Ile. He said, oh, no. He said, these are small-time operators that wouldn't bid on something outside of the Grayling area. Yeah. So I don't know what the result was. An M72, I know, is a state highway. you're talking 50 miles an hour versus we're talking 25.
Exactly, right.
The issue, I mean, I'm not going to say it never could happen, but hopefully it won't happen here because we haven't had that complaint surface. I met with Lenawee County personally, Monroe County personally, and that issue never arose.
Yep, fine, wonderful, great, good.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Yes.
I'd like to make a comment. Well, I guess now it's working. In Chautauqua County, New York, they chip seal all the feeder roads between Route 5 and Route 20, and they're about 1.5 miles apart. And the county does that, and they chip seal it in a very rudimentary manner. They spread the binder, they spread the chips, and then they open the road. And it leaves for a period of time, like you've described, it leaves a very, very loose aggregate that gets thrown around and it finds its way over to the shoulders. And we brought that question up to the contractor and also to the gentleman from MDOT that was here. And the method that we're using really should minimize that with the application of the binder, then the chips, then the rolling, and then the second application. I've seen exactly the problem that you're describing, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and it comes from kind of just the binder being put down and then the aggregate on top of it, and then it's left to the traffic to kind of wear it in.
Glad to hear that. I think that was really the reason I came, because I am convinced it's a good road. It can be done poorly in the beginning, or it can be done good. And it sounds like you've done a much better job than I think they did when they did it on 72.
Well, the same results are there. 6 weeks to a month or so afterwards, it's a beautiful road. It's that period of time in between, and I think that's probably the reason.
Do it right.
Well, thank you, Sam. Other folks want to come up to the podium with questions.
Thank you. John Shea, 27156 East River Road. Two concerns. Most of my questions are already answered. Will any residual spraying get on a new concrete driveway? And also, will the grade of the road right now, will it be, it drains quite nicely, East River Road does. Is it going to be dipped in the center? How are they going to, I mean, is it going to be from the center high and drain down to the ditches and what have you?
Well, there's not much thickness to this, but I'll let the engineer come up.
How thick is this to begin with?
You want to come up? Come up to the podium, please.
We're not changing any of the grades. It's just a thin layer we're putting on each one. So if it's crowned in the middle, it'll stay crowned in the middle.
Okay.
If it's, however it drains now, it will drain then.
All right.
And the chips are very, very thin.
How about the overreach of the spray?
There'll probably be some overreach of the spray. They'll try to minimize it, but again, as you're trying, you're going down the road trying to spray. Imagine when you're trying to spray the spray paint.
Are you talking about an inch or two?
Possibly a couple inches. If there's new poured concrete approaches, we can talk to the contractor about trying to put your paper, contract paper over the approach, so when they spray, they can spray in the paper as opposed to on the driveway.
Yeah, there are several homes along there that had new drives put in up the road.
Well, we will
and
bring
a couple that got stamped concrete in there.
Bring that up.
I don't know who they are, but I'm sure they will.
That's fine. We'll have an inspector out there on site during the process, and we'll bring it up at the reconstruction meeting that there are several driveways that, if they're concrete or stamped, that we want to try to protect those.
And how does it hold up summer salt, winter salt? Does it no effect?
Well, it's just asphalt. It's basically asphalt like they'd use for the road.
Okay.
It's just we're using a different method of constructing. Basically, when they do a new road with asphalt, it's all mixed together, and they come down and they lay it out and they make a mat. It's a nice smooth surface. This will be a little more rough, and instead of mixing it all together, they're laying the tar down and then putting the stone on top of it.
Okay.
So it's essentially it's the same material as your asphalt roads. It's just a different construction method.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
I'll answer this question about the winter maintenance on it. Like the roads up by me in Kalkaska County, they're putting salt on them and they plow them. And they hold up beautifully.
This young lady back at the back of the room.
I'm Linda Van England. I live on East River between Grow and Manchester, and I'm just wondering, I'm assuming with the way this is done, there is no way to widen it or so that for the bikers and height walkers.
That's right.
Where's the checkpoint?
So, will it go all the way to the
Edge of pavement.
shoulder?
It's going to. What road are you on again?
East River.
It's going to go to the edge of pavement, the existing pavement width that we have. There's no money to widen it.
No way. Okay.
I wish we could, but we have a lot of narrow roads. Church Road, Ferry Road, Bellevue, and you've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
But,
no way. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Linda Carrier, East River, between Ferry Road and Grace Drive. And you had mentioned that we need to be very careful as far as driving 25 miles or less, I'm going to hope for. My driveway is right off of that. So as you're turning into the driveway, if you come to a sudden stop or if your wheels are turning on that new surface, does that do any kind of damage to the surface?
That hasn't been said to us before, but do you have any experience with that, Dale? Or
extreme turning,
which you're going to do?
Well, if you're at a standstill, that's the worst.
Okay, so
when you're at a standstill, that's the worst. Turning, you can't get help. First couple of days, just try to take it easy.
we haven't heard that complaint. That question hasn't arisen when we've studied.
Just concerned about the damage, and I mean we're all in and out of our driveways
So drive
numerous times a day.
So drive slow in and out.
I'm sorry?
Drive slow in and out of your drive.
That's right. Thank you.
First couple hours is what you need.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Just what I was going to say is they just say just first couple of hours or so. So if you can, just avoid it for a couple hours.
Woody, I see you sitting in the audience. Usually you have questions.
Only one.
Come on up.
Forgot his walker.
Okay, other towns do this. Are we going to pay the inspection fees on this?
Yes.
Or the permit fees on this?
No.
Or the Riverview fees on these?
No, we're not going to pay permit fees to the county on this.
Because this other township does it, or the other town does it, and the county gets all shook up. And
yeah, we're not going to pay the county for this.
Okay, so they know about that up ahead of time?
Yes. Yep, I was in a meeting with them when we were promised the permits, and that issue came up, and we're not going to pay for permits for the county.
Yeah, because that can add to the price.
We're not paying permits.
Substantially.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on this topic? Well, okay. Last shot here. You got to come up to the podium, sir.
How thick is the chip road over a non-chip road?
How much is it going to raise it?
Yeah.
I would say maybe a half an inch.
So there will be, when you're coming from a non-chip road or leaving a chip road, there's going to be a little bounce coming down.
It's going to be nominal.
Yeah. Not enough to slow down traffic. Huh?
Well, and the chips,
no speed bumps. Okay,
this was interesting for us to learn. The chips are specified. They're more like a sliced almond than they are round.
Oh, I see. We're picturing little rocks.
Yeah,
I know, and we were too initially, but they've progressed. And they do this a lot in Ohio and in the southern tier of counties in Michigan. And it's almost like we're going to put sliced almonds on your road.
It's a good way to describe it.
All right, with that, you're all welcome to stay. We're going to continue with our meeting. And I just want to do a little advertisement here. One of the things at the end of our agenda we've been working on for a year, is we're working on a long-term road program. And eventually we're going to come to the voters and ask for approval to sell bonds for several $1 million if we're successful with the pilot program. And we would hope in that to redo your roads, do 15 miles of roads with this chip seal application. And if we sell a bond issue, many communities are doing that right now. We would hope to do them 5 years apart, for example, or 6 years apart, so that we can preserve these roads. There are many roads throughout the community that are not eligible, asphalt, that are not eligible for chip sealing. You're familiar with West River Road and your West Shore Country Club. You're familiar with East River, and one gentleman described East River and all the way from really Manchester, but it really gets worse over from between Ferry and Horse Mill, how bad it is. Church Road itself has to totally be reconstructed. Ferry's declined so much last year, it's no longer eligible. And with Church Road, with the elementary school on it, the school bus route, it's pretty dangerous, pretty narrow, and we'd hope to widen that. So we're working on a long-term program. We're going to discuss a little bit tonight. We're going to make a recommendation to the Township Board, and we'll see how this works out. But I think perhaps our goal has been to submit something so that voters will have a chance to vote on a bond for fixing our roads throughout the township over a 3 or 4 year period. And included with that is we're working on a major water main program, and our water main system is 70 years old. And a lot of the water mains that were 8-inch mains are now, because of calcium buildup on them, are reduced to essentially 4 inches. We need to finish looping the system on West River and East River. Our fire chief has expressed concern about that. So we're working on both those as one program. We don't want to pave a road and then come back a couple years later and put a water main under it. We want to do the water main first and then fix the road. So we're working on a long-term plan. We're going to talk about it later tonight again. You're welcome to stay for that. But we have to do something or the quality of life on the island is going to deteriorate. Our roads are so bad, and they are not only on the island, but every place else you drive as you get off the island. Whether you're on King Road or sections of Pennsylvania or Allen Road or whatever it might be, Jefferson right off the bridge, we do have a road funding problem. And we've studied this, and we know that since the year 2000, the revenues to the Michigan Department of Transportation have declined 10%. Now think of that. Since the year 2000, road revenues that the state has to distribute to cities and villages, county road commissions, has declined 10%. And at the same time, costs have gone up tremendously during that 14-year period. So the gap between what dollars used to represent and allowed to be done, and every penny at the state level represents, we have 19-cent gas tax. Every penny brings in $45 million at the state level. So we've really looked at this, and more and more communities are saying we've got to do something about our quality of life. Roads are unsafe. They look bad. They drive bad. And someday they're going to affect property values if we don't do something about it. That's my advertisement for the night, my soapbox, so to speak. So at any rate.
Well, they just passed a road millage in Kalkaska County.
Did they?
That was on the ballot for August.
Well, and it's just an issue that we have to address. That's all there is. So I thank you for your interest tonight, and you're certainly welcome to stay. So with that...
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion the public information presentation be closed.
A motion that the public information part be closed. Moved and supported that we close the public information part. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we'll move along with our regular agenda. So I need a motion to approve the rest of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as stated.
Any discussion? Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Austin, thank you. Dale, thank you. All in favor of approving the agenda indicate by saying aye.
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 Who seconded that?
The agenda is approved.
You second it? Okay.
We have the minutes of the July 8th meeting in front of you. If there's no discussion, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting of July 8th be approved.
Support.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 The minutes are approved. Approval of bills, vouchers found on pages 7 through 15.
Make a motion that the vouchers 13,286 through 13,293 be approved.
Any discussion? Questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item is review of statements of revenues and expenditures. You've all had an opportunity to look at them. If there are no questions, we'll move on to the next item. Are there any questions? Hearing none, next item is approval of the Treasurer's Report dated July 2014.
Move that the Treasurer's Report of July 2014 be approved as stated.
All right.
I'll second that.
Are there any questions? If not, it's been moved and supported that the Treasurer's Report for July be approved as distributed. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Any opposition? Motion passed. I do want to just indicate, I think that everybody got a copy of this engineer's summary. Lorinda? Am I correct in that?
The engineers, which one?
The expenditures related to engineering?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody had that in their packet. And as you know, I've been affiliated with a firm that does similar work as this, and I've looked this over. Most of these expenses are project-related, and I think we get a real good bang for our dollar with Raines Engineering, in my opinion. We get good advice, and none of these fees are out of line, and most are project-related to our water mains, our work at our wastewater plant, to our road improvements. So if anybody has any questions, I think I would offer you could contact me, and I'd be glad to explain it to you. It looks to me like there's about $8,000 or $9,000 in here for what I would call general engineering services, which is very customary for a community our size. So, okay? Are we satisfied with that then at this point? I know you asked for this information, Mr. Budney.
Yes, I did. And as I told you, yes, I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you. I did want to point out, too, that in the Treasurer's Report, Ted, the Road Improvement Fund has $293,000 remaining in it, just barely enough to get by with our paving program this year, but we collect taxes again December 1st for the next year.
Got the postcards already stamped.
All right, well, at any rate, the money we're going to spend this down this year with our program. Hopefully the weather will ease up and the contractor will get out here before September 15th. So just wanted to point that out. So with that, I think, Miranda, where we're at is up to manager's reports, and it's your show. Update on the concrete repairs.
Okay, update on the concrete repairs. Well, this week they got rained out, Monday and Tuesday, but they'll be back to work again tomorrow. I talked to Bill Bettendorf this morning, and he said the brakes came back good. They've already swapped over the traffic, to the other side. They're getting ready to do that. And if all goes well, they'll be pouring by the end of the week.
I'm just telling them to be quiet out tonight.
Oh, okay.
Hallway. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. They'll be pouring by the end of the week. If the weather works out, they'll be finishing up.
All right. Have they done work on the one street I haven't been down is Manchester?
Oh, yeah. They've done a lot of work on Manchester. They've already moved to the other side now. They've already got the barriers up and the road switched, the traffic switched over. So starting tomorrow, they'll be breaking it out.
Okay. Update on Loma Circle. And before you speak, I'm going to ask Mrs. Pilsky to come up and address the commission. We had a lot of rain yesterday.
Where did we? Laura Plishkin, 10200 North Loma Circle. I've come here tonight on behalf of my husband Kurt and myself just to say thank you to the commission. With the rainfall that we've had recently, had we not done the project between Hawthorne Glen and the homes along North Loma Circle, we would have again been able to launch our 14-foot aluminum boat and row it around my backyard as that water approached the house as it did last year. This last go-around these past couple days, I've been faithfully back there checking it every day, and it is doing what it was designed to do. And the neighbors in Hawthorne and Glen have been coming out and looking at it and saying, wow, what a difference it had made. And I'd really like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because otherwise my backyard would have been devastated again.
Well, thank you for that. We're so happy that it worked out. I'm pleased about that. And thanks for coming.
1 out of 10 ain't bad, Bill.
Well, so that project is not quite complete, I guess, but I'm glad it's working. And do you have anything else to add on Loma Circle?
On that portion of Loma Circle, I talked with Sohail this morning on it, and they've already submitted their bill to Raines for review. The sod's on top, everything's working, you know. He said it's done, basically.
I guess we should check it, John, tomorrow, make sure nothing's washed out with a heavy rains.
It's pretty wet back there, too.
Anything else on Loma Circle?
The other Loma Circle.
Yeah.
Yes. Sohail, I talked to Sohail this morning on the other part of Loma Circle. He's meeting with the county this week. Time has not been set for that. The specs, the drawings are already done. Bid advertisement will be going out. They've already sent them out to Cam and Dodge. They'll be going into the EEL camera a week from this Friday. There'll be a non-mandatory, kind of like a pre-bid meeting on the 20th of August. Other than that, you know, that's where we're at right now.
Well, after the heavy rainfall yesterday, John and I were both up to the Albright residence, and I will tell you the water was within inches of their door wall, or a couple feet anyway. And Kim and Kevin Albright were here earlier tonight just to thank John Keim, who went up, and John, you went up there last night to help pump the water down. Can you tell about your experience?
When I got there, they had 2 small submersible pumps in the pool trying to keep up with it, and that's a 5/8 garden hose. We bought them a large trash pump that pumps 400 gallons a minute, drew about 3 feet of the water down out of the pool, give them a little reservoir space in case the rains did come back last night, left them the pump in case they did come and they needed in the middle of the night, they could pump it themselves, and we pumped it out to the front to the West River frontage. So they were more than ecstatic to keep it out of their basement again.
Since our last meeting, Sohail has spent the last 2 weeks trying to get the Wayne County Road Division to come and meet with them so they would issue the permits. They told us that they won't cooperate, but they said they would give us the permits directly from the road division and not through their drainage permit section, which could delay things 2 to 4 months and add costs. So they finally agreed to a meeting Thursday, I understand. And as far as I'm concerned, the current operation at Wayne County is sickening. They don't try to work with communities. I know money's a problem, but you know what? They don't even try. So I don't care if I'm recorded for saying that. Ted?
I just want to remind Lorenda that you're keeping track of those bills. We got a new administration coming in, so we might as well be a thorn in their side from the first day. Send those invoices to them.
Okay, I will.
All right, so we're glad that that's worked, and I asked Lorinda and John for an update on Rucker last night. What happened there?
The capital improvement project, as far as cleaning that line, has worked fantastic. There was no water there whatsoever this morning. Drained immediately. Within an hour, the water was gone.
Have you heard anything, Les? Any complaints?
I walked it today. I was back at those houses today.
And?
Great. Dry.
Okay.
There was some minimal street flooding, which also subsided within an hour. We had one basement that had water in it on Waterway Drive.
So, gentlemen, our drain money is well spent. So,
just to make a comment, you know, we all got hit pretty hard on the sewer plant and sewer rehab bill, but had we not had those new main interceptors running down to the plant, we would have had a Detroit issue here on Grosse Seal 10 years ago. I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, the ability for us to move the water and make it Joe's problem and not the homeowner's problem is it's the one good thing that came out of that.
Well, that's good to hear, Ted, and I wanted to ask Joe to come to the podium next and tell us what went on at the wastewater plant last night.
We had 2.81 inches of rain yesterday. Most of it, a bunch of it fell around between 6:30 and 7:30, and an inch and a half, I think, of it fell between 7:20 and 7:40 last night. It got to the point where the water's coming in where all 4 pumps at the basin kicked on, but it quickly let up. And we had basin's about 3/4 full this morning. I checked it just prior to the meeting here. We had about maybe 750,000 gallons yet to go before we're going to the river. But for the first time in my 26 years here, we had the 24-hour, 25-year storm event at Metro Airport. We didn't actually have it at the plant, but it came very close down here at the airport, and we know the north end of the island got a lot of water too, based on what they got in Wyandotte. So, but I think it handled it great.
Did you have to dish bypass?
Not yet. Not yet. We got a pump operating intermittently. I think if we don't get any more rain, we probably won't bypass it all.
That's amazing.
Thank God it was dry. You know, the ground soaked up a lot of that water. So.
Well, okay.
Well, the rain gauge at my house, Joe, was 4.3.
Okay.
And it was raining so hard at that period of time that I don't think I could have gotten wetter on our garden hose. I mean, I had 8 inches of water in my garage.
Again? Wow.
Car almost floated on.
Wow. I mean, that was something with the Metro
I don't know
experience.
about your recording. I thought we had more than 3 inches of rain, but
that was on the electronic meter that records it had that, and it was, I get every 10-minute update on it. And
take it away from underneath the tree, will you?
Well, the other one that's right there, they agreed. I mean, the two agreed with each other. I had 1.15 inches at my house. So we didn't have hardly any rain out there, so.
Crazy. Okay. Well, all right, so don't go away.
I know.
You're going to come back. I guess maybe you could stay there. Item number 3, you would hope John Riley would give you an update. There was a meeting, I guess, Jim Budney and Jim Nelson in the committee. Somebody want to report on that?
John and I met with Joe and his boss. Just kind of a meet and greet to talk to him, get some information. John, since that meeting, has pretty much been out of the state, and so nothing more has been done to this point. We probably are going to suggest that
when the ball in our court, I think we owed you a letter.
You were going to get us,
and that still. I talked to Gary Friday, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm working on that." So,
but excuse me. We're probably going to suggest that we go month to month if we come up against the deadline on the contract, and just go month to month and handle this correctly and not race to anything.
Yeah.
All right, so when the ball's in your court, that means that United Water is going to submit a letter.
There's going to be a letter. It's not going to be an official.
It's not a proposal,
but just a general outline. I guess, is what we kind of agreed on at the meeting.
Yeah, what they were looking at, changes to the contract that they would be interested in.
Well, it is going to be a proposal then.
Well, yeah.
Informal.
Informal. That's probably the best way to put it.
All right. Well, we have a subcommittee, and you're going to work with the subcommittee, and I assume you'll give us a report every month.
Yes, we will.
Okay. Any questions on that from anybody? I guess you have item number 5, Joe, and Lorinda can talk quickly about item number 4. We all have it in our packet. Lorinda?
Right. There will be another household hazardous waste collection. The county will be sponsoring it. It will be held this Saturday, August the 16th, at the Westland Shopping Center, which is located on Warren and Lincoln Boulevard in Westland. We have flyers in the back here. We've also posted on the website if anybody's interested.
Okay. Any questions? Next item I see in our packet, you had just the quote, I guess, to replace an impeller at the sludge mixer. Is this really the intake portion of the plant?
This is the sludge mixer to process the sludge that we get at biosolids, at the plant. We mix it, we bring it in, we mix it with lime, stabilize it, and it blends in this tank with this mixer for 2 hours. Got to maintain a pH at 2.0 or 12.0 for 2 hours, and then we send it off to storage. And as you know, then when things go well, twice a year we take it and land apply it on farm fields. We have had an issue 3 times now. It's since this went in service in 1999, where the mixer in the sludge tank will accumulate rags suddenly, will accumulate like on one of the blades. There's 3 blades on the mixer, and then throw the whole thing out of balance. And you can't see it; it's all underneath the sludge. And a couple weeks ago, it cracked the housing where the gears are above the tank, and it just shattered. It's like pig iron. It just shattered. That's the 3rd time it happened. It's a $9,000 exchange with the company. And so I was talking with the rep, and I said, this shouldn't be happening. I read somewhere about these impellers that don't accumulate the rags. They kind of shed them. And so I talked to him, and I said, well, what do you recommend? So he sent me this couple pages down as the shows a picture of it and explains, how and why it works. And he sent the quote. The quote is for about the same amount that every time this thing breaks up, it costs. So if we do this one time, change out this impeller, I would, I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I think we'd greatly reduce the risk of this thing shattering and then going out of service and having to, emergency order one and get one in to replace it. Because we do process sludge 2 to 4 times a week. It's not something we'd like to be out of service a long time. We had to work around. We used a little air compressor to do the mixing while we were working on that. And it's back in service, but this came in, and I think this would be a good investment to probably get around. We don't have to do it today, but I just wanted to give everybody what to think about. We could put it in the capital plan for starting for next year. But I think it would be a good investment and prevent this from happening. Because in the 15 years it's been in service 3 times now, we get a wad of rags in there.
So what does it cost? How's this going to be different than what you got, and what does it cost to fix it every time?
About $9,000. What was it? $8,900, I think.
Each time?
Each time.
And you're just fixing an old impeller?
No, we're fixing the gearbox up above the tank, because the impeller's down the bottom of the tank, gets those rags, and it swings that shaft so that it actually, the pressure's so great up above, when it's swinging with the out of balance, it causes the causes the gears to strip, and then
Well, what does this do different than what you have?
it sheds its design, it doesn't allow the rags to accumulate on the impeller itself.
So the shaft stays straight, doesn't put the stress on the gears.
Right, exactly.
Like a big garbage disposal.
Joe, one of the things that I don't think that none of us are really getting here, why would you ever use the other one then if this is so much better and it costs less money?
I'm not saying this costs less money. You still have the gear housing and all that's going to still be there, and that'll need maintenance over time.
Okay.
But this was what was spec'd when it was all put in service. I mean, that's how it came.
So this is something relatively new?
It could, yeah. It was just a couple years ago, the first time I saw one of these impellers. It didn't.
Okay.
And we didn't know they existed.
And in reality, it's less expensive because you're not having to do as much.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean,
Right.
that's the objective of this, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Joe, is our impeller the one that's as pictured in the top there with just
No.
the arms in it? What's ours look like?
Almost like a 3-bladed airplane impeller.
Okay.
Or propeller.
But it's still basically straight out.
It's straight out.
So,
straight out. You know, they're bent obviously to do the mixing, but yeah, it's straight out, straight. No, it's not. It doesn't have rounded ends. And it just, these rags, I don't know where they come from. I mean, by the time they get in there, sometimes like pulling dead bodies out of there with a rag hook. I mean, it does. They weigh like 50 pounds. And it's,
Joe, I got a question.
Yes.
Basically, this is saying we need a 57-inch diameter impeller and a 2.5-inch diameter shaft. Is that correct?
Well, you can do the shaft, but talking to the guy, he said we could take our existing shaft, probably to Suburban Industries over here. They lop off the old impeller, mill it for the keyway for the new one, and we can mount the new impeller on our existing shaft.
So the 2985 is an option.
It's an option. I'm guessing we could probably do it for less than half if we took it to Suburban to cut off and mill for the new keyway and attach the impeller for us.
Is there anybody else in this market?
There was I think it was an ad for somebody else who just sold these impellers, and that's something we'll look into.
Yeah, I would think you'd want to, for something at that price.
Yeah.
If we can get a competitive look at it, that'd be the way to go.
Yeah, this is just OEM.
Now, at the intake where our effluent comes into the plant, we don't have a grinder pump.
We have 2 grinders, but when we have like high flows like this, where our wet well fills up, a lot of the stuff just goes over and behind.
So rags, unlike more of a woody or solid, they don't get chewed up by the grinder pump. They just get flushed around.
And you
make it through
made
the
it
system.
stringy, and then it catches on, and it seems to grow by the time it gets into the sludge tank. These things they're huge. Some of them. I mean,
you don't know where they come from.
Well,
I think they grow.
It's because it gets stringy, and it just keeps,
All right.
like yarn.
All right. So, any direction from the commission? You're going to see if there's an alternative to get a different quote on it? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's the thought.
I just wanted to throw this out there because
it seems like the way to go if we can put this on once and maybe
hopefully
not
then it
doing
will.
the gear, and then, the gears last longer, etc.
Maybe every 10 years you do a gear kit, which is $5,000. Because we originally got a gear kit and then found the housing was broken, and so we returned the gear kit and replaced the whole
So
thing.
you're essentially just pointing out a problem and a potential solution that you're running into today.
Yes.
Without any memo from the director.
Oh, this was my fault. I threw this at her Friday.
You threw it at me on Friday, and we added it for just discussion.
Yeah.
All right, so you've had enough discussion on it at this
I've had enough discussion. If you guys are good, I'll come back with more stuff. And I think we'll just, unless you want me to move forward quicker, I'll put it in the capital plan for next year.
Yeah. I think we need to look at some bids on this.
Okay.
And even the housing, is there a whole new monkey out there that may cost twice as much and last 3 times as long, or a whole new assembly?
I mean, lightning mixers are kind of the top of the line.
Okay.
I mean, they're well-known brand that's out there.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else with regard to Joe this evening? If not, any other questions, issues for Joe? If not, Joe, thanks for being here.
Okay.
You're welcome to
All right.
go and see your family if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See some of you on Friday then.
Yes. Okay. All right. That covers your items, Lorinda?
Yes.
I would just ask you and John, before we move on to the other items, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about what's going on the island, John or Lorinda, tonight, or other topics? I'm not fishing for anything.
I was going to say, I don't know of anything else.
John?
No phone calls regarding all the rain, which
You're
was...
kidding.
Just the one.
I thought you'd be
He just got the
deluged.
one. That was it.
I thought you'd be deluged.
I got nothing. Nothing.
That is good.
So we aren't aware of any major sewer backups, sanitary sewer backups?
No, sir.
Not
Just the one.
If anybody has a sewer backup problem, call the DPS, which is in the phone book or wherever you find the number now. All right, well, with that, we'll move on to discussion items. The first item is review and prioritization of improvements for Wayne County Neighborhood Street Initiative. I talked with Sohail this morning, and he said that by the end of this week, there's been a lot of work involved. They went out and measured all the areas that we identified, and they're writing up what the fix should be in a sentence or two, because we have to define the scope back to the county and the cost estimate for the fix. So by the end of this week, they'll have that done. So in talking with him and looking at we wanted, our schedule was we wanted to approve or have a first look at this to approve it at our next meeting, which is September 9th. So that's a month away. But the way Labor Day comes in 2 weeks away from now, I thought, I don't know whether people will be on vacation or whatever, so I just threw out today to an email to all of you a couple of dates that I know Sohail was available. And it's a week away. It's the 2 dates that we proposed are the 27th or the 28th. If I'm correct in that, that's a
Wednesday and
or a
Thursday.
Thursday morning for a morning meeting. And I already know that that date's good for you, Jim.
Yes, the 27th.
27th is good for you, Ron. I heard from Phil that he's not going to be in town. So I don't know, the 27th work for you, Les?
Either one is good for me.
All right. Ted? That's
What day of the week is that?
Wednesday and Thursday, the 27th or 28th. Looks like the 27th seems to
I think it will be. I've got a friend going in for surgery that I'm going to take him to the hospital.
And Jim?
8 o'clock in the morning again?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought we'd go from 8 to 10, so we'll set it for the 27th for 2 hours, 8 to 10. Yep, if Lorinda will tell us where, one of the conference rooms. Now, my thinking is this. We're going to get it, I hope a week ahead of time, everybody's going to get a mailer, including Phil, even though he's going to be out of town. We mail it to all of us. A hard copy of the location map. If you remember all the spots we looked at, Woody, you should know this. We put a number on. There's probably going to be 80 different spots, maybe more, that we're going to get a report back that's going to show them on a map all the little improvements, whether it's to fix a slab here or a manhole there or whatever.
Yeah, it would be numbered.
And there's going to be a number, and it's going to have a report listing all the fixes and a cost estimate for each one. And then it's going to be up to us to prioritize them to the point where we spend $500,000 each year the county's going to give us. And plus, I think we talked about our $100,000, so it's really $600,000 of improvements we would make each year of the next 2 years. And so we'll all have that map, and then we got to prioritize it. That'd be our challenge. And so I thought we'd do a study session, have at it, and then there may be some disagreement on priorities, and then finalize it at our meeting on September 9th with the hope that at the end of the month we could transmit it to the Township Board. Give them time to look at it and ask that they approve it in October, because it's got to be approved and sent to the county by November.
Right.
Okay? Is that clear to you, Woody?
I only have one question.
You're welcome to come up.
Where is Paramar and Meridian and Highland and Meridian on the list? Where is the number? What is the number?
Well, you're talking about on Meridian itself.
On Meridian itself.
It's not eligible. Meridian, the major roads are not eligible.
I know this is for repair.
For the county program?
No.
Oh, for our other program?
For something to be done about Paramar and Highland. You have two bumps, been there for years. Les all knows about it. John knows about it. You got to dig down, put in gravel, and then I'm hearing you got to put in clay top for a while, and then when that sinks, then you bring in the asphalt. Is that correct or wrong?
Stone. Replace the stone all the way up.
All the way up, and then put in
asphalt after it's compact.
You're not going to put in
a little clay on top of the water main. A little clay on top of the water main, but then stone the rest of the way up.
Okay, because it's not done that way now.
Correct. Well, it is done that way, but it's improper backfill.
Okay, and that's the reason we have the bump, the bump. But we've got to continuously got the bump.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Was this a result of a crossing, a utility crossing?
Yes, sir.
Some years ago, or what?
Yeah.
Many years ago. The stone that was put in there was 22X. That's the stone that we were using at the time. We stopped using that. We went into 21AA blast furnace slag. And it doesn't swell up when the frost gets in it. I had that all scheduled when I was working with the county. If they would resurface it, we would dig it out and put the new stone in. Well, they came down there and monkeyed around with it and never let us know when they did it. So it never got done properly.
Well, we need to go look at that again, because you did make that comment, I think, to the Township Board.
Yes.
And we made a note of it, and we did discuss it when we went on our tour, but we kind of discounted it because
of where it was.
Well, because we were told any road that's eligible for federal aid is not, or a major road, major carrier, was not eligible for this program, the county program. So we looked at it, but I didn't pay much attention. I know there's a lot of bad spots in that area.
So those two bad spots have been there for years. Right. Les knows about them, they come in, they take the off, and then they'll come back and they'll put the asphalt on it, and then they'll raise it up, and it's just junk city.
So in other words, what we have to do is go down into the sub base and dig it out.
You got to go to the bottom
and fix it.
You got to excavate at least 4 to 5 foot of the material that's in there to go past the frost line.
All right, so I'll throw out an idea here. 1 and 2 is, we have to match the $500,000 with 20% money, so $100,000 each year, right? You know that. The county's going to give us $500,000.
I understand
that. You have to spend another $100,000.
But this is for a lot of people that run Meridian. It's not going down Horse Mill.
I'm with you. So one thing we could do is ask the county if we can spend part of our $100,000 on Meridian. That's one thing we can ask. I hope you're making notes, Lorinda. The other thing we can ask, or we can do, is we're still going to have money we collect next year. That we can put that on our list, which we have avoided Meridian because we want the county to fix the major road problems.
Well, you got Meridian is a bunch of junk, and you're not going to repair it unless you dig it up and start over. You're not, and it's getting worse. East River's better to ride on than Meridian if you run down the center line. and which I do.
Right.
They're both equally bad, too, so.
Well, not, but East River is a lot better from Macomb to Horse Mill than it is Meridian.
All right, so I understand what you're saying. You understand what I'm saying about the two financing methods? Everybody on the commission okay with that? Everybody? All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank the people on Meridian who run it.
All right, so we've set the date for the 8 o'clock in the morning on the 27th. You'll post a notice, Lorinda, so Heil can make the meeting with Bill Bettendorf, who was with us on our tour. And so with that, the next item is review and consideration of our long-term road water main capital improvement program. This is still a draft. It looks like this, everybody. I hope everybody had a chance to look through it, because what I want to do is just flip through some pages. This is your chance to... Lorinda and I drafted this, okay? I want to go through it page by page and ask for objections if you've read it. If you haven't read it or want to read it again, I would ask you to call in your comments to me so that we can discuss them at our meeting on the 27th. Because what I'd like to do is bring closer to a final product to you. This includes you too, Ted. Father over there. Ted, this includes your input too. And I've given copies of it to our finance director and to our township manager and asked for their input. What I'd like to do is take this as an adjunct piece of information when we have our study session with the township board, if we have it in October. And then before anything else is done with it, eventually I want the township board to say, yeah, we approve something. I mean, they may not approve anything, but if they do approve it, then we have to go two other places. I'd like to go to bond council and ask for advice on the financing, the cost aspect of it, and I'd like to take it to the county. I'd like to take it to the county so that they have a couple of months to look at it. Now, we're going to have a new administration, so I personally would deliver it. I know Warren Evans, and if he's elected, I will personally see that through Mr. Palomero we deliver it to the county and their new DPS people and ask them to look at it, because this doesn't mean anything if the county doesn't approve it. Our concepts, both our design concepts, what we want to do, and the timing and so forth, and they got to make a commitment. If we're going to spend money, they got to spend money. They got to spend federal dollars. That's what we're asking them to do, right? All right. So I just want to go through this and ask for your comments. First of all, the cover, we tried to come up with an attractive cover that'll send a message. We're talking about making an investment in our community, fixing our roads and our water main. Everybody okay with so far? We got through the cover. The first page 1, starts out a discussion about roads, and page 1 and 2, here's the thinking on it. We didn't want to write 10 pages of stuff. We want to get right to the point and talk about why we're proposing to do this. And if you've read it, hopefully it capsulizes where we're at. Any input? Ron?
I really did read it. Yeah, and I thought it was very well written and very well set up, and you're right. I was looking at it, and my first thought was, oh man, they're going to have so many pages in here, but you did a very good job of keeping it down and keeping it on point. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ron. And page 3 lists the road projects. And, we've worked this and reworked this, and the more I think about it, every time I look at it, I want to rework it. But I'm a little concerned about one thing. If you look at project number 4, which is East River Road, and project 7, which is West River, one of the thoughts I had as I looked at this again is that I wonder if we're hoping to get, we know that East River is eligible for federal aid. West River is not. but I barely have, we have the cost estimates are in there high, but at $900,000 a mile, now we don't know what, we put it in high because Sohail is continuously worried about right-of-way issues along there and what the alignment's going to be to meet federal regulations. And but in terms of the local share, I just wonder if we shouldn't take $300,000 out of the West River project, or at least $100,000 per mile, and put it up into East River section. In other words, instead of $200,000 a mile, making it $300,000 a mile for East River, and reduce West River from $800,000 to $700,000.
Don't overthink it.
Well, I am overthinking it. So now that may all change. The dollars may change when we go to the county. They may come back and want to change it. So am I overthinking it? Okay, thank you. Then the next page is a map that shows the road improvements. The next page is water. Again, we tried to capsulize, without going on and on and on about water. We have this whole big blue book on water. Tried to just present the issue and the problem and list the water main projects. Anything on the narrative on water? Any suggestions? All right, water main improvements. You'll see that there is a map on the back that says not done yet. Not on the back, but on the water. And I also had an estimate here of replacing water main on Meridian. Now what happened is, you recall we had the study session on water main?
Yep.
And from that study session, we determined, if we go back to page 5 of the report where it lists all the water projects, we determined that from project 1 through 9, that we were pretty much in agreement that was the priority. And so that includes completing the 12-inch loop on East River, West River, some repairs on Main and Bridge, Church Road water main, and the section of Meridian out here where we had a lot of failures, and Hickory Island. Well, then we said, well, look, what else would we do to fill out a water main program? And we put all the water main in the South Point fill. You see projects 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, they're all. And as I looked at those roads, we were going to make a mess out of that neighborhood, putting all the water main in. And they're I guess John will tell us, but they're no worse than any other 6-inch pipes all over. So I went back to John and I asked him, I said, John, is this the right area to put the water main? And John said, I'd rather see you put water main in on Meridian between Lowry and Church. That gets us underneath the canal, where the canal crosses Meridian. Okay. So I asked Sohail and his staff to put together a cost estimate for that water main, which is $1.6 million. The water main on the listed projects 10 through 15 total over $2 million. So my thought is if the staff is saying that their preference would be to fix that section of water main that go underneath the canal and so forth on Meridian, where we have a lot of breaks, it's a major 8-inch main. Correct. That they've had a lot of problems with, that we ought to fix that. So what I was suggesting is substituting what shows up as page 40 on your agenda packet for those 5 projects that are shown on page 39. And it mostly affects your neighborhood, Phil. But
that water's fine.
Yeah. So, and it does, it's major surface that comes from our intake off Bridge this way anyway. So how does anybody feel about that?
One comment, Mr. Chairman, and John might address this too. At the corner of Grow and South Point at the Apex house there, Apex, seems like we've had that dug up over and over and over again over the years.
Which corner is that? What?
On the southeast corner, Grow and South Point.
That's all new water main.
It's all brand new.
That's all been taken care of because that had been just almost perpetually dug up, but that's all been new.
That's all 12-inch all the way down to Boucher, and 12-inch going through the airport, and 12-inch on West River Road.
I'm talking about coming down South Point.
That's all 12-inch main.
Okay. In the past, that had been, other than that, I haven't seen any problems. I mean, you haven't been down.
Well, when was that
here and
replaced? The area he's referring to, Les or John?
Had to be like 05.
Yeah, not too long ago.
2005, 6?
They replaced the 10-inch main in there with a 12-inch. And he tied that into the 12-inch canal crossing, and the 12-inch ends at Boucher.
You were still working for the township when that was done?
Yes.
Okay.
Other than that, there's been no problems down there, and that's been taken care of.
So my proposal is to substitute this $1.6 million section of water main in the report where it affects a lot of people and not go destroy those neighborhoods. Is everybody, are you okay with that?
Yeah, which numbers are you planning to take out?
10
On
through
page
50.
39, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 would all come out. Now,
Page 40 in place of it.
I got to redo this. But before you get it back, I mean, I was shooting for no more than 9 million in there, and this will be less than that. So we'll have some flexibility. Maybe it'll be $250,000 or more, or who knows, of where we. I mean, in this draft, I was trying to make it look like that, so that would be our program. And in essence, $9 million for roads, $9 million for water is kind of the neat numbers we were looking at. I don't know if I said this earlier. I think I did when I talked to the people. Last night, Southfield City Council voted to put a $99 million bond on the ballot for voters to consider the sale of $99 million of the bonds over 10 years. So they could sell some years $20 million, another year $5 million, but have the flexibility to do that. And they estimate that would require about 2.5 mils to retire that debt.
Mr. Chairman, Lincoln Park, of all cities currently, struggling, the voters approved a road millage for the city of Lincoln Park, and I think it was in February or March when the election was. And so they're going to move forward and begin to fix Lincoln Park streets with the millage money that they were voted on by the residents. So that was...
It was a $20 million bond.
Was it? And that's significant in a town that kind of struggling.
I don't think they can sell the bonds.
Well, probably not until they get out of receivership here, but they're heading in the right direction, is what I'm indicating. And the fact that the voters would actually support that, I was quite encouraged by that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, most of the propositions that were on the ballot this past primary were approved. The one that didn't get approved was the RISA proposal, which anyway. So the last 2 pages of the report are really a summary. Tried this to state in a few words what this means to the voters, to our voters, and if we were to go forward with this, a package of $9 million for road improvements that would, if the county approves this, if we get the federal funding, would generate another $3-4 million, so it'd be like $12 million of road improvements spread over 4 years, and then $9 million roughly of water main improvements. This could be financed at most for 2.94 mils, and by the time the bond attorney gets to it, and this is something, Ted, we haven't worked out yet, there may be some already authorized millage, but if we sell the bonds in series, the first few years, would at least be 2 years apart, we wouldn't have the full impact. So it might be $1.5 million the first couple of years, and then close to the 2.9 mils the second. But we again figured those at 5%, and I know that interest rates are not generally over 4% at this time. We don't know what they'll be next year. So is the summary okay with everybody?
I think your whole report, you did a good job, Bill, and
all right, and
Lorinda.
And then lastly, we put the bond payment schedule in because everybody always asks. Everybody thinks that there's going to be some relief, but we don't get any real major relief till 2024 with current debt. So I thought Ann prepared this for us a year ago. I thought I'd throw it in there. And all right. So we'll make final changes again and bring it back to at our next meeting. So again, if anybody has any afterthoughts or want to suggest changes, bring them to me and we'll put it on the agenda for discussion at our meeting on the 27th.
Just on
John,
page,
you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just on page 4, it should say, second sentence, original construction consisted of cast iron, not ductile.
What was page 2?
Page 4 of the, under the water.
It's cast iron, not ductile?
Correct. Ductile iron's new, cast iron's all the old
Yeah,
stuff.
you're right. Very good. So thank you, John.
Thank you. It's a wonderful presentation.
All right. Okay, that's it. That's all I have as chairman. Let's go around the table. Ted?
I just want to compliment the commission. You took on 2 huge drainage projects this year. They were kind of controversial going in. We didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Both of them resulted in a great success, well-spent taxpayer money, and alleviated a lot of problems from the residents. Good job.
Thank you, Ted. Les?
Nothing tonight.
Phil?
Nothing further.
Jim?
I know you don't want to hear this, Bill, but you do yeoman's work for this commission. And I mean, you have, I know, but you have so much knowledge, and I really appreciate your leadership. Thanks.
You have anything substantive to say? Ron?
Nothing more, sir.
Jim?
I'm all set. Nothing.
Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion. You've already had a chance to speak.
I make a
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Then I'll second it.
Moved and supported that the August 12th meeting of the DPS Commission adjourn. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Your name is in here. You put your name on these. You even have your name sewn onto here. So why is your name now in here? It's time to put your name where it will always be seen, right here. Place your name or your message at the high school stadium entrance along with your friends, family, and with the people who grew up with you. After all, the years spent here have created so many great memories. The Legacy Brick Walkway will be filled with the names of our Groseal family. A legacy brick can say so much, and you will be a part of Groseal's history. Order yours today. What will your legacy say? For more information, go to Google Sites and visit our webpage. Orders are rolling in, so order yours today.
Muppet concert's coming up, right?
Wave my hand, Harry.
Oh, yeah, we got a pirate back here. That's right. I see a pirate way back there. I think his name is Ed. Eddie the Pirate.